Hello, how is everybody? Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about searching for jobs. I think this is going to be a more vloggy kind of chat, more than like a useful tips and tricks kind of chat, because I'm kind of in the spot where I don't really have answers. I've been job hunting since May 2024. So we're coming up on a year now when this is being posted. And it's been bad. Job hunting really sucks. And with things how they are in the world, I know there are lots of people in my shoes who are also searching for work and having a hard time, especially if you're in creative fields. So yeah, let me tell you about what I've done, what pitfalls I've dropped into and crawled out of, and ways I found success. And we're just going to use this video to manifest some job interviews for all of us, and hopefully job offers. Also, the bird is yelling in the background. It's what she does. She's angry. She wants a job as well. So, how the heck do you find a job in 2025? From everything I've looked at, it's difficult. And it's very different than what you're taught in school. I admittedly, I've not been in school for a long time. But what happened to me, I do this comic work here on YouTube, and this is my side hustle / passion project. And what I used to do for my day job was I worked as a graphic designer. And I've talked about this before on the channel. But I was working for like tech companies, mostly SaaS companies. Meaning software as a service company. And I was the graphic designer. I worked on a marketing team. I did a lot of like social media marketing, email marketing, building the website, designing the website, all that good stuff. I'd made a lot of PowerPoints. Yeah, so that is what I did. I worked at 2 tech companies. One I stayed at for a really long time. And both of them, unfortunately, I was let go due to layoffs. That is often the way it goes with tech companies. Is they hit a bump with revenue and then they lay off a bunch of people because the biggest expense is salaries. So that sucked. I was very sad when I was laid off both times, honestly. But with my most recent job, which I was at for like 5-6 years, it was sad to be let go. I really enjoyed that company. So that is what I did, what I do, the kind of work I'm looking for. With my previous jobs, so the first like tech job I had, it was due to family that I was able to get the job. Basically, they were like, hey, there's a job opening here. You should come in and interview, try to get your foot in the door as like a junior designer. And I was like, cool. And I went in and I interviewed and they liked me and I got hired. So I was very lucky and privileged to get that position. And that had been after like years of looking for graphic design work. I used to work in like cafes and food service. I worked for a little bit. Bones at the time was working at like a sportswear printing company. He did like embroidery and they needed an extra hand. Well, actually, they asked Bones if he wanted to work weekends and he was like, I do not, but you could hire my girlfriend because we weren't married at the time. And so they did. So I worked part-time for them. I did some graphic design work, making flyers and stuff. It was very part-time. It's very like temp work where like some days I was not scheduled in because they didn't have work for me. I was just kind of, I was on call. But anyway, so yeah, so I did look for a few years, like applying to graphic design jobs, not hearing anything back. And then that family member reached out and I was lucky enough to be hired into a nice tech company. So I'm very aware that like I got into that stream of work through like privilege and luck and kindness of others kind of thing, where I'm sure it's very different if you don't have those connections. It's a lot harder, and it depends on your geography too. While a lot of companies are remote, it is hard to find that work, depending on where you live. I was living in a city that had a lot of tech startups in it. At that first job I worked at, I was let go as part of like a group of layoffs. And I went job searching like immediately. Like I came home that day, we were let go in the morning, and I came home and immediately jumped on like sending out resumes, applying to job boards, like everything I could find on a job board. I think I sent out like 50 applications within a week kind of thing. And very quickly I was hired on to my next job. I lucked out. It was a posting that they'd had up for several months. And I popped in my resume and I did an assessment with them, and I got called like the day after I applied, I think, and I happened to be the right fit. They later told me, like, after I was hired, it was between me and another person. Like, our portfolios were both kind of the same, and then they just... they thought the other person was more meek than me. And I was like, whoa, I'm pretty meek. How meek was this person? They were, like, very meek. And I stayed there for a good long time. I really liked working there. So then when I was laid off this time, in 2024, I kind of expected to have the same experience, where I was like, well, you know, the last time I was trying to get hired, I got hired within a week. I bet it'll be like a month. But it has been like 11 months. So it's been a long time. The job market is very different. And I probably spent the first like month after I was laid off putting the portfolio together. And I was applying to jobs in the meantime and just getting my stuff together. And I had to design out my resume because I hadn't really done that. There'd been a couple times when I was at that company where I looked at other jobs. I never did anything seriously, so I had to really get my portfolio and resume together. And then I went to town applying to things, and I heard nothing back. The first interview I got was this past February. So like over 6 months of searching and hearing nothing. Nothing but like form rejections. It really, really ate at my soul. I was like, well, my work is terrible. I'll never get a job. Everything is bad. That is how I felt. I was crying a lot this past year. I was pretty depressed. Now, I have some theories as to why that was. I think that a large part of that was the economy just wasn't great. I think most places just weren't hiring. The market was really weak. A lot of places weren't hiring, but there were lots of people applying, and there still are. There's a lot of people without work. Now, what I learned through those months of like applying and hearing nothing back, I discovered there was a lot of job postings that were like suspicious. And I was just like applying to everything when I started, but after a while I was like, I'm getting scam phone calls. I'm getting scam texts saying, like, with spelling errors, saying like, and they're sent out to like 20 people. I was added to a bunch of like text chains full of like 20 people saying like, hey, here's a job offer, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is all spam. And I was like, how am I being added to this? Like, I don't have my information out there. I maybe have my email on my LinkedIn kind of thing, but I don't have my phone number out there. How are they getting this? And I realized that the only way they probably got it is through my resume. So I think what was happening was I was applying to scam job postings, and yeah, being targeted by these scams, which really sucks, because the only thing I was hearing back from was shady offers, which really stunk. I also learned about ghost jobs, but essentially ghost jobs are fake job postings that places will put up. It's either to get metrics on who is applying. So it's to get information on other competitors, it's to see what kind of people are applying to them. So like they might get like gender and ethnicity metrics, or like level of education, just like who's interested in their jobs. The other possible use for it is that it makes a company look good if they seem like they're hiring. It's something that can earn them funding. It looks good to their board of directors. It makes them look strong in the market. So some places will just put up job postings and not fill them. I think the other reason is, like, I've heard that they'll have people at their workplace who are like, I'm stressed, I have too much stuff, we need to hire someone. And they'll be like, yeah, we'll totally do that. We're gonna hire someone to help you. And they put up the job posting and then they just don't hire anyone. And they seem like they're they seem like they're doing what they're supposed to, but with no intention of fulfilling it. So that's ghost jobs. So it's a useless application. There's also just fake job postings that are just scams. I've seen on websites, like people, a company will have like their website with where they list careers, and they'll have warnings saying, hey, there's people who are pretending to be us on like LinkedIn and job boards. Don't apply through there. It might be fake. So that is also happening. There are places that are pretending to be X company and just getting you information, probably to send you like scam texts to get your info. And then the last like fake posting that I bumped into, and I bumped into this once, where I applied to a job, and then a couple months after applying and hearing nothing, I got a message from one of the people, and they were like, hey, are you interested in doing like a test for us? Like design some emails and we'll treat it as like an application. And now in the last job I did like a phone screening with them. So I talked to someone at the company and they asked me about myself, and then they said, cool, we're going to send you a design test to see if your skills match what we're looking for. And then we'll bring you in for like another interview kind of thing. I think like I'd already done an interview with them, and then this was just part of the application process. This latest company that I was speaking to, who had not spoken to me at all. I hadn't spoken to like a real person. It was all just like through messages, and they gave me a design test. And so since I'd done this before, I was like, okay, I guess this is just like their interview. They start with a test. So I did the test. I agonized over it for like a weekend. I worked really hard on it. It was like designing some emails, and they provided all the assets and things, and I designed them and I sent them off. Never heard anything back. And I'm convinced, this is all alleged, but I'm convinced that they were just getting free work from people. And if they weren't, they're just jerks. If this was a legitimate like interview thing, they were just jerks because they ghosted me afterwards. Like they could have at least said like, oh no, this doesn't suit. So my thinking is that this was a scam to get free work out of designers. And I've seen warnings for it where people will say, hey, if you're a website designer, a graphic designer, a UX UI designer, and someone asks for a test, don't do it. Say no. They're just getting free work out of you. And I think that's what happened to me. In fact, throughout the industry, there is kind of like, there has been pushback on tests like that, just because it is ripe for scammers to take advantage of job applicants. Because that's the thing, legitimate companies will ask you to do a test because sometimes the person who's doing the hiring can't, I don't know, they might see a gap in your portfolio and they say like, we want to see that you can work with our brand and make it shine. I have to see something specific, and that's why they do the test. But I don't know if it's good. I personally don't really like it. It is kind of asking for free work, even if it's never used by them. And I have heard that some companies will pay for work of that sort. They'll give you like a budget and pay you for spec work like that, which I think is what should be done. Yeah, it's just, it's ripe for abuse. And I think I was scammed into making free work for people, which really sucks. So be wary of that. So how do you avoid these things? It is difficult. I think sometimes something can look super legitimate and you'll fall for it. And sometimes that just happens. But I think what you need to be wary of is spec work without an interview. Be very careful not to do those tests for companies unless you've like sat down, done an interview, talked with somebody on the phone or through a video chat or in person. I think another thing to do, like if they're asking out of the blue, just say like, hey, I have a rate. I can do this spec work for you, but you have to pay me, because that can scare them off if they are just a scammer. And I think the other thing to look out for that I've started doing since learning about like scam postings and ghost postings is to check, if you find a job on a job board, check that company's website. And if you don't see a posting on the website, don't apply for it. It could be a scam. Now, the only exception I've found to this, if it's like a really small company, if it's like a mom and pop small business kind of thing, where they don't really have like a full website, it's not a big corporate thing, and I see like they have a posting on Indeed, I'll usually apply to it, where it's like, okay, this seems like a small company. They probably don't have like, a full service career portal on their website. So I'll just use the job posting. That's the only exception. Otherwise, if it's like a big company, if it's like a tech company, I would always double check their website to make sure that the posting is legitimate. What else? I think I could do like a full rant about putting together resumes and portfolios if you are going into graphic design. It's definitely stuff that needs like a bigger topic video, I think, than this, where I'm mostly just ranting about like pitfalls. So if people are interested in that, let me know. I can't give advice for like every industry. I've never worked for a publisher. I mean, I've submitted pitch packages and stuff like for publishers, but I've never like worked directly with one. So I can't give advice on that. I can give advice on like running a YouTube channel or like a small merch shop kind of thing, or printing your own books. And I can talk about being a graphic designer or a web designer, a little bit about UX UI, a little bit about doing some freelance illustration jobs, but there's a lot of fields that I can't talk about. If any of the stuff I mentioned you're curious about, let me know, and I could maybe do more videos talking about that, more vloggy kind of videos, talking about my experience. And I guess I'll just finish this off like talking about things that have gone well for me. I found that over the past couple months, like currently it is March, and I started hearing back from places in February. So I think part of the reason why I'm hearing back now, where I wasn't hearing back last year, there are certain points of the year where like places are more likely to hire. I mean, different companies hire all year round, but you're very likely to get hired kind of like November-ish, around November, and around like March. Those are like the two big hiring times. I know with like the kind of around the start of the year, around March, it's usually when companies like have their budgets, they're ready to hire new people. The November one, I'm not sure. Maybe it's ramping up for the new year. I'm not sure. But they're getting ready to hire. So those are two times when you are likely to hear back. But I think last year I did not hear back from anyone because the economy wasn't doing so well in the area I'm at. So I think people were pushing off hiring, and it's picked up to its normal rate again currently, despite the fact things are still kind of uncertain. But I guess they're always uncertain. Anyways. So I think that's partly why I'm hearing back so much, where people are opening up to hiring again. I think part of it too was I got a lot smarter, where I was applying to less scams, applying to more legitimate places. I also have found some success with reaching out to my local employment office. So I'm in a smaller town. We have an employment office that kind of covers like the county I'm in. So like it covers a few different towns and cities. But I reached out to them saying like, hey, I've been looking for like 9-10 months for work. I can't find anything. Can you help me? And they said, of course, and brought me in, helped me do some resume work. They have connections within the community, so they can reach out to employers and put in a good word for me kind of thing. They give incentives, like they get like a grant if they hire me to like cover some of my training, for example, which gives them more incentive to hire me. And yeah, and they're just really, really nice folks who work there. So if, look into your local community, even if you're in a small town, you might have an employment office that covers like your county or your area. You can look at big cities that you're nearby. They might have something as well. And I know in the area I'm at, so I'm in Southern Ontario, I can go to multiple employment offices like that. There's a big city near me, I could go there and they have a separate employment office, and then I could look at jobs in that area as well and get the same kind of help. So there's nothing stopping you. As far as I know, you can ask your local office about that, but you can go to multiple areas and have like a bit of a wider net to finding work. They also, again, I think it depends on the area, but they offer like support if you are in like financial crisis, homing crisis, mental health crisis. They help with all that stuff, which is really lovely. So yeah, look into your local employment office. I'm currently looking at temp agencies as well, just to see if maybe I can find some part-time work. That would be good. But yeah, reach out to people. I hear a lot about like messaging people on like LinkedIn and networking and all this stuff, where you just like reach out to recruiters and people who work at big companies you want to work at, which is fine. Like I spoke to a recruiter friend of mine who said that like, where I was like, I'm worried about bothering people if I reach out to them out of the blue. And they were like, well, it's useful. Like if you reach out to someone, if I'm looking for a designer and a designer out of the blue reaches out to me and says, hey, here's my relevant experience. If you know anyone that's hiring, let me know. And then I can say, hey, we're hiring. Like it is helpful to just have their have their work land in their lap, but it is tricky. I don't quite understand that part of it, but I've definitely had a lot of luck reaching out to friends and people I know So like reaching out to fellow like coworkers, ex-coworkers, connections I've had from different jobs, family members, friends of friends. I've gotten some freelance work kind of down the line working for friends. And having this time off where I'm not working a day job, it has given me a lot of time to work on comics and to learn about freelancing, to kind of like market to people, reach out, figure out what freelance stuff I could offer to people. And while it has been very, very stressful because there is this like looming fear of like not having money, I'm currently on employment insurance, so like unemployment benefits kind of thing. So like we have some income coming in to pay for bills and stuff, but that's going to run out soon, so that's very stressful. But I've also had lots of time to work on comics, figure out what I want to do, connect with people. It's been interesting. I think you got to look at the good parts of like job searching. And I've also been expanding to non-graphic design work as well, like non-arts work, where like a lot of my skills are very transferable to like customer service, administrative office work. I did learn through my local employment office that like there is and again, I think this is because I'm in like a smaller town. There are lots of jobs where you need like really basic computer skills that you probably have if you're like a millennial or a Gen Z. Like I'm a millennial, so I have a lot of computer skills that maybe older generations don't necessarily have, or depending on your background, some people don't have. So there's lots of like administrative office-y jobs where you're like doing data entry, maybe doing reception, customer service stuff, where those really basic skills like using an Excel spreadsheet, being able to use like a word processor, putting together PowerPoint presentations, like it's not graphic design work, but it's still kind of relevant stuff you can still do and find work that way. So branching out to graphic design adjacent fields has also helped me with finding more work. Yeah, be careful out there. Be good to yourself. Job hunting really sucks. It's really demoralizing. There's a lot of shame around it. Like I've spent a lot of crying this year, just going like, oh my god, I'm a useless person. No one wants me. And that's not true. That's not true. You know, my feelings are and were valid. But you're not a lesser person just because you can't find work. Unfortunately, our society has that stigma. But you're not lazy. You're not bad. You're not worthless. You're a lovely, lovely human who's trying your best. And stay strong, okay? I'm rooting for you guys. Like I said, we're manifesting higher ability. We're manifesting interviews and callbacks. Okay? Let's do this. Let's go out there and get some jobs. Alright, this is a long video. I'm very sorry. Let me know if you'd like some more videos about my job search. Let me know if you'd like me to answer some art and comic related questions. I'm also curious what you guys are working on. And take care. Goodbye. Mwah.